What's up guys, I'm Dunmere, top 100 Overwatch main tank, and I'm going to tell you guys about Sigma. So, Sigma in Overwatch 1 was an off tank, but now he's a main tank. He didn't really get changed too much, and I guess he's, you know, main tank, off tank, whatever, they're all tanks now. But you have a little bit more responsibilities for taking care of your team. And so you're going to want to play more towards the core of your team, but that doesn't mean there's not times where you can push out. In regards to like changes for actual like buffs and nerfs, not a lot got changed too much. The damage from his rock was buffed. He got some extra shields, but other than that, and like the recharge rate of his shield being nerfed, he didn't get really any changes. So basically the same as before. You just got to be watching more towards supporting your team. So with that said though, like I was kind of hinting at, even though you are a tank now, every tank in the game has more like fragging responsibilities, because if you aren't fragging, you're kind of not going to be getting this sword. You're not going to have like the same ability to just like get value out of just like doing very like structured main tanking things as much. So you kind of have to be aware of that, right? And even in general, just being able to frag out will carry your game. But back to, you know, actual Sigma specific things. Sigma thrives really well from high grounds. Since he doesn't have, oh, that is weird. Since he doesn't have the ability to move vertically or horizontally, you can get punished for your positioning a lot. So you have to be really aware of that. You have to be aware of how to use your primary fires, the space enemies away from you, how to frag with them, but really importantly, how to use your ability to move, just to position yourself in good places, right? Sorry guys, I was kind of losing my mind there for a second. But basic positioning is essentially everything. So if you do have the ability to hold the high ground, you really should be doing it. As you can see, I keep popping up to the high grounds, looking forward a little bit just to get some poke into the enemy, just to farm my ultimate, maybe, you know, maybe scare kill, right? But not anything too far where I'm gonna be painting. And then when the enemy gets a little bit closer, like they are now, it's time for me to kite, right? You want to be kind of setting it up in a way where you can consistently like be poking like that, but enough to be getting your shield back to full health before you go in. And so that you're ready for the next fight. Now, even though Sigma is essentially like a ranged poke-based tank, you still do have the ability to push. So when you do see a trigger, just like on other characters like Wrecking Ball or Winston, you're going to want to walk into it. And like I said, this character's positioning is so important because you don't have like, you don't have the same sort of just ability to essentially just jump away, right? Like you can't do it on, you can't jump away like you can on Doomfist or Wrecking Ball or whatever. On those characters you can literally just be like, oh, you know what? I'm taking too much damage or whatever, it's time for me to dip. So you can escape with those. But on this character you can't. So as you can see here, I'm holding the high ground. I'm consistently using my cover when I don't need to, when I like am getting threatened somehow. And we kite away from these sort of things. This character did get a lot of like, it has a lot of consistent capability to target backlines, just because you can essentially throw your rock or your primary fires like into a group of enemies, and there's a very good chance that you'll be able to like consistently hit multiple of them. So what you can do with that is, instead of choosing to like brawl their front line all the time, you look for their back line. So like their Junker Queen might be out here, right? But I know if I'm sitting here poking at their Junker Queen, I can put a lot of damage into her back line and like make her supports weak enough where they have to kite out, and that's going to end up netting my team a kill on the Junker Queen. For actual like shield usage and stuff like that, man, that was close. You don't want to be using it too much as like just a damage reducing thing. You want to be looking at it like a ability to block cooldowns. Now there are fewer cooldowns than before that are like something you need to worry about, but you can still like be caught out by certain ones. For example, like on a sleep dart and things like that. So it's really, really important to like be aware of like what is potentially going to be threatening you. Same way with your eat. Your eat mainly should be used as like a sort of way to buy extra time off of your shield. Like right now, for example, say they're shooting at me, then I pop my eat here, heal some damage off, and then by that time my shield's back up 475. So you can basically use them and just like weave them in and out consistently to like get a lot of value out of that. So in the last set of gameplay, we were talking about how Sigma's has a good power to alternate its shield and its eat ability to consistently like keep its life up and constantly be avoiding threats. And now we're going to talk about that from the perspective of a map in which Sigma isn't perhaps the best, where there is a lot of ways it can be surrounded and you know, threatened. And we're gonna see what we can do about that. So first thing I kind of want to do, my team went down main, but I want to take high grounds like I've always been talking about. But this sort of thing will let me be not surrounded. But since I'm up on this high ground up here, I'm not going to be getting the same sort of pressure from people on multiple sides of me. Like my team isn't with me, so I'm gonna end up like pushing out towards them a little bit. But that high ground was a much better place to be. And when you get threatened like this, it's time to just kite, see if you can survive. And just make sure you min-max as much as possible. Because even though in that situation I did end up getting caught out, I still was able to be saved by my Kiriko. Tossing your shots into groups is really, really good too. So also my Kiriko got absolutely rolled there. And it's unlucky, but it's not like really something you should be 100% worrying about as a Sigma. Just because of the fact that it's not your job to make sure every single death doesn't occur. Like you're not a Reinhardt shield. You need to be like really making sure you're using your shield to primarily for yourself, right? Like feather it to make sure it stays alive for your purposes. Though that doesn't mean you need to entirely ignore your teammates. It's just like you're not a Reinhardt, right? You shouldn't be sacrificing your shield for your team just because they're using it kind of too much, right? However, when you are playing in like a Widow duel or something like that, if you are with your Widowmaker, you do want to be like communicating when you're dropping your shield, when you're putting it up, because in that circumstance, it's like a very, very different thing. But in general, your team should be kind of treating it like your shield is semi-permanent, you know? And as you can see here, neat little trick you can do with your shield is you can place it in between the healers and their tank, and they can't be healed unless they, you know, go around it, right? It's useful to just toss in the middle of fights because it gets you like a very solid little amount of extra fight advantage essentially, which is what this game's all about. So, like I was talking about before, I push up, take a little angle from a safe location, put some extra poke into them, and then if they end up pushing me, then I kite out. They are grouped up though, so I'm gonna try and hit my ult in this room and see what I can get from it. I didn't secure the kills because I went to the opposite side of it, but it doesn't always have to kill. Essentially, you should, like in ranked, be trying to kill with your ultimate, just because very consistently, if you're killing, you're gonna be just easily fragging, right? But you also have to be aware that like anytime you do a chunk of damage to enemies and knock them down to low HP, that can be a really good opportunity for your team to just win a fight in general. So currently in this game right now, I'm only playing into things that are... Oh, that's bad. I'm only playing into things that I can block damage off of. But if I'm playing against like a Sigma, or sorry, a Winston or something like that, that's when things get a little bit awkward. Winston is like the natural predator of Sigma. If you are playing Sigma against Winston, it's honestly better to swap off unless you're able to like consistently be forcing him out and stuff like that. Yeah, so you can use your ultimate to like early, like I did last fight, or you can try and hold it a little bit. I'm gonna try and hold it a little bit. When I see an opportunity like I just did now, then you go for it. Apparently I just missed all of them. That's actually kind of funny. But all tank characters in these games really want to be playing to like kite disadvantages and push advantages. And that's what you do. You just kind of skirmish on the front lines here. Sigma is very good about this kind of stuff. Like, yeah, if you're playing against like a if you're playing against something like a Reinhardt, you're gonna have a very hard time doing that. So you do have to be more careful. But playing into something like a Junker Queen that doesn't have the ability to block any damage on her, you can kind of just sit on the front of her and just farm. Because you do have a shield advantage at that point. If you don't have a shield advantage, because you're, like I said, you're playing against a Reinhardt or something like that, and he's consistently able to just brawl you out better, then in that point, it's a lot better to try and like off angle. And even questionable, you know, whether you want to play that character in the first place. You can usually fit in a set of your primary fire, like when you lift them, and when you like right as they land. It's most important to try and hit the one when they land, because you'll very easily be able to kill a 200 HP target. And so that's like the main way you should be thinking about it, but if you can get both of them, it's gonna be really, really free for you. Looks like I'm just dead here. But always good to farm extra ultimate. I'm farming it so quickly though. The way this game designed Sigma, you're pretty weak to things that get on top of you, like directly on top of you or push through you, because your shield is stationary and all that sort of stuff, and you don't have like huge damage up close. Like you do, but like not against like a Rhino, right? So you can use the rock to push something off of you, like a Junker Queen trying to brawl you. When she gets close to you, just toss the rock on her face. That's just gonna constantly space her out, because she's gonna like, it's gonna cost her a lot to get on top of you essentially. And then you could frag her out. So of course that's not the only way to do it. You can just do consistent value out of it. Against certain things, when they are aggressing onto you, you don't need to try and like worry too much about the damage they're doing to you. Just because of the fact that like you'll generally be healing it up. Like for example, if a Moira's like the only thing attacking you, or like the thing that's up on top of you, you can consider just dropping your shield entirely to charge it up, because any sort of tickle damage just putting into you isn't going to be enough to like warrant you wasting your shield for it. Like you don't need to block all damage with your shield. It's kind of the way you need to think about it. You just need to block like cooldowns and bursts of damage. So as you can see, I'm kind of in a little bit of an interesting position here. These are kind of like these aggressive like positions you can take when they don't have something like a Lucio on you. Now you do have to be cautious, because at some point they will, I guess we're just going this way, they'll be able to push you too hard, and the higher rank you are, the more they'll push you and punish you, right? And it really depends on what they have on the team. But you'll get a lot of value from just getting extra poking from angles and basically pushing the character as far as you can. Like Sigma's a very important character to min-max. Every character is, but Sigma's like especially important, just because if you're not able to like constantly be out as far as you can pushing and farming damage, you're not going to be getting his ult up as much, which is a very powerful one. I have 12,500 damage. So again, take the high grounds. High grounds are excellent. They just give you an extra little level of safety. It was also kind of weak into chokes. I wanted to walk through here to like see like how hard this choke was going to be to push through. But if I could get it and start pushing into the enemy and start fragging them, it would have been really good. Also, since Mei no longer freezes with her primary fire, she's just not nearly as much of a threat as she used to be. In fact, she's kind of like useless. I don't think she might be the worst character in the game at the moment. Okay. Like no animation for her disappearing, is there? I'm gonna kite that because there's an ult going up. Push back in because our ult goes up. The really juicy ultimate. Hit them when they land. Sigma, even though his like damage doesn't actually do like that much normally, you do have a really good ability to do burst damage. And so what you're looking to do in a lot of circumstances is just like pump some damage into them and then burn them down with combos of like your accretion rock and your primary fires, and you'll get a lot of value out of that. Again, as you're probably going to see here with my, I assume it's my ultimate. The ultimates can be used in two ways. You can use it to engage on the enemy. So when the enemy is just standing there, if you see an opportunity, you pop it on them, you push in, try and kill something. A lot of times you won't, but they'll be weak afterwards and your team can push into that. But if you use it more towards the mid fight to secure kills, you really need to be like making sure they're weak and that you can 100% get kills off of it. If you're looking for some more Overwatch 2 content, then make sure to check out these videos I have right here. Like I said, I'm a top 100 Overwatch player, so I have lots of videos and things to share with you guys.